Okay, then thank you for your patience. Okay, yeah, we found him. He's having tea with his friend. My goodness. All right. Right. Well, this morning, can I do it like this? Um I will actually, I know there's a lot of you who want to ask me about your assignments. You're really, really like dying to ask me about your assignments. But I think let me finish the class first, and we leave the rest of the time to assignment. Huh? Can we do that? Yeah. Then we finish the class and finish all the syllabus first this morning, and then we will go to the assignment, and then we'll talk about your assignment. If you need me to answer you any questions or anything like that, I will do that lah. After that, then then tomorrow, remember we still have a class tomorrow. I know it's Labor Day. I also don't feel like attending classes, and I'm sure you all like feeling like quite tiring, and some of you are actually celebrating your Raya and all that, and then you want to go out and buy some stuff and etc. etc. But we will come in and take attendance, and I will give you a briefing on exams. Okay, I don't think today, 3 hours, I really, really doubt that I can cover exams with you, because quite a lot of notes that I need to cover with you this morning. Plus, then I'm sure you've got questions on assignments. So we will have the examination sessions at 2 something tomorrow. Maybe we'll start the class around 2 o'clock. I will let you know maybe 2:15 or 2. Then I will give you a briefing on what to expect in exams and how to tackle the exam questions and how to tackle take-home exams, because I am the one that will give take-home exams. And my exams will be on the 7th, if I'm not wrong, for this particular class. The others, I'm not sure how they're doing it, but for legislation 6163, I will be purely doing it via a take-home exams. Okay? Yeah, so I think for those of you who have sat for my exam before, you know what to expect. But those people who hasn't, like Riley and Fazana and Mira, they all, Amalina, they all, you don't know what to do, you see. And also, I'm sure the rest also wants to know all my tips for exams, like what to cover. There's a lot of notes, I'm sure you will say to me, doctor, like what am I going to study and all that, yeah? And also for people who are sitting for there's 3 of you who is going to be oral examining by myself. I've already sent you the link for that morning. We will start at 9:30, and you just go on and click on that link that I gave you in the group. Because I don't remember who I'm actually examining, so I just put it generally in the group. So not my student, those that I am examining, like Fazana, Eddery, I think you all are examining under Dr. Lee or somebody else. So can you please check with them for the link, okay? They will be giving you a link, but in case they forget, before the oral presentation on the 6th, you need to get it from them, okay? So these are some of the housekeeping things. For those who are under my supervision, you go to the link yesterday. It's a private room link, okay? So you just click on it, you will muscle already. And yeah, it's on the 6th morning, okay? Yeah, right? And I think I'll be marking some of you for your thesis. So if you put it online for your thesis, you just email me your thesis, For those of you I am examining the thesis one. Am I examining anybody's thesis? I think so. I think I am. Yeah, should be. No, I don't actually. Yeah, for some reason I don't examine anybody's thesis. Okay, so never mind. Yeah, only the oral. Okay. Yeah, it's very confusing. I'm also thinking for my the other main classes, so I sometimes get the 2 group mixed up. Yeah. Okay. Right. So last week we have something that we haven't finished actually, and I just remember. So we better finish that one up. And last week Sunday, many of you didn't attend the class. But it was a very, very short class. It was only 1 hour, and we actually go through some other people doing assignments, some of you doing assignment. And yeah, from there, I could understand that many of you didn't understand what was that, variation, I think. Yeah, variation. I think many of you was a bit confused with variation. So after that, I think most of you should be okay already with variation. So let's see how you go for the assignment. or you need me to talk about variation again, then I will just roughly touch on it again this morning. Oh, wait. Answer. Yeah, I will touch on variation again this morning. Basically, we are at the end of all these things already. Actually, yeah. We are actually at the end of all the contract. The things that is appearing in most contract, we've already more or less covered. Whether in the most contract, like I said, via standard form of contract or via general terms and agreements that your company is writing for your own purpose, these are all in there. It will cover things that are in there, okay? I mean, like these are the things that will be in a contract generally. So you need to learn to read it and manage it, okay? So variation order, the other day we were saying that variation order means that there's change in the scope of work. Can be good changes, can be bad kind of changes. And detrimental one usually is because the client don't have money, they run out of funding, and then they want to change the standard, the materials, the work, the portion of the work, the scope of work, that sort of things. Beneficial one, usually they may want to increase certain quality of work, and then they want to add in certain scope of work, or they change things because it's not available in the market, and they want to speed up on the job, etc., etc. So there's many reasons why variation happens, and you can read from here. And generally, variation will always happen. Some people say that it's always contractor related, but it's not true, Like they say, oh, contractor didn't do a good job, so therefore we need to change this and that. But they're always based it on performance, you see. But actually, most of the variation that we know is actually client related and consulting related. Client related is especially when the client related is especially when they themselves want to change the scope, or they want to add on, like for a lot of government work, because a lot of stresses due to political reasons, and they need to add in certain portion of work to supply to certain people, and all that. And then, let's say opening of a hospital in line with the in line of certain dates, and then they need to rush the job, add in certain work, or do a show house, showroom, or water pipeline. They need to add in certain portion of the pipeline which is not there originally, and all that. So yeah, so that is a lot of reasons for client to actually do variation. And also client do that is because sometimes, like I said, they run out of funding, they want to take down certain things, they want to omit certain things. Consultant related are always related to design. They forgot to design certain things, they forgot, they didn't check the site carefully, and they didn't merge the site carefully, meaning that, sorry, not merge, it's like they didn't merge they didn't sort of work with the other consultants properly, and there's a lot of overlapping or a lot of things that are not right in the drawings compared to the site actual situation. So therefore, we call for variation. Okay, and contractor, like I said, a lot of times is performance related, and also contractor generally are quite happy to get variation if it's an addition, but not all the time that they'll be happy to get extra work, because a lot of this extra work doesn't include adding money in terms of general and preliminary. So adding those work that they need to do, but yet they cannot claim for any extra. They can claim for EOT normally, but they cannot claim for all the expenses that is related to the extra time that they have to put in. So their deferred liability period sometimes can be extended because of that reason. Supposed to be they finish this month already, and then by at the end of this month, suddenly the client throws some additional work, and they have to delay demolition. They have to delay demobilization, and then they have to stay on the site for extra 1 month, and all that is actually expenses, you see. So variation that comes too late in a contract at the end of the project is actually not not viable and not good for the contractor, and they know it. And sometimes due to performance, because they cannot find certain materials, they didn't anticipate the delays in certain materials, and they didn't, or manpower, and they need to change specialists, or they need to change different piling people, or they need to change different materials, like from bakao pao to belian pao, etc., etc. Those sort of things require changes, you see, and those changes are not necessarily good lah. That most of the time it's not welcome. And the other thing is you need to know how to value. The first thing is you need to go through the proper procedures of variation, meaning that when the SI are being instructed, is being given, okay, to change, there must be a response by contractor side about the changes in cost or no changes in cost and time. And those changes needs to be approved by the client, and or engineers or architects, actually they don't have the power to approve PO. They give site instructions to change certain things. They are legally doing that. That is correct. Okay, they can contractually they can call for changes, but those changes they lump it under site instructions. But there is limitations in the SO or engineers or architects' power, the supervisor's power, based on the fact that, if I'm a client, I also don't simply want my consultant maybe to cover up for their own mistake, or to cover up for certain things, or to back up the contractor, to give variation without me knowing that there's a lot of additional costs involved, isn't it? I wouldn't want that, and I'm sure none of you would want that, you see. So we do want the final say to come from myself as a client, kan? So that's why this is actually limited to the power of SO. So if you look at such instructions or instructions in any contract, underneath there will always be certain clauses that will be limiting for the SO, and variation is one of them. So a lot of you, when you receive such instructions, you're very happy that your consultant actually has already given you such instructions, so you fine and dandy go and do the job. Of course, getting a site instructions is condition precedent. It is a must for you to carry out that job. That means, it's a must for you to, receive that instructions, and it is a must to be there for you to contractually bear, not to bear no responsibilities, as in, if you do it without any site instructions at all, then you have to be totally bearing that responsibilities. If suddenly they say that, I never asked you to do it, then you are the one that will kena, see. But if there is a site instruction, like we say, a condition precedent, meaning that it must be there for you to actually physically do the work, okay, that one is a must. That means that, okay, now you have the instructions, you are properly instructed to do it, but if anything is wrong later on, at least you have that in your hand and say that, you will formally ask to change certain things, you will formally ask to omit, or you will formally ask to carry out certain things, you see. So at least you've got that in your hands. That is the basic condition, we call it condition precedent, for you to do that particular section, that particular work that is instructed. But it is not what you call, this is not a approval for any changes in cost, you see. So that's why a lot of you receive the site instructions, you go and do the site instructions, and then end up no way to claim the money. It's because you forgot, or you didn't know that there's another layer here, meaning that you must get a proper variation order from the client, meaning that you need to get the approval of cost and timing, and technically they must approve of the changes. The client must approve. It doesn't come from the SO supervisors. You understand? So different contract will maybe write this thing very differently. So you must read your contract differently. But you need to know the variation. The procedures here has two layers. First is the SI, site instructions. Second is the contractor must propose in the expenses and also the time that is involved in this addition or deduction. Then after that, the client must issue a formal VO, which indicates their approval for the additional or the deduction in cost. Then, supposedly, only then you baru boleh buat you punya kerja. But many clients plays a trick of not give the VO until the very, very end when they're trying to wrap up the cost of the whole project, meaning that, and then they start to make a lot of noises saying that, are you so expensive lah, thing, you know, ayo, mengapa you so expensive, you know, but then the work is done already, and now you're crying to me it's expensive, you know. But the thing is, a lot of time, the contractor themselves also didn't put in the proposal of changes until the very, very end. So then the clients scream for expensive. There is a reason why they scream for expensive. Then, so this is the thing. Both parties sometimes are not doing it properly. Sometimes contractor put it in very early, the changes in cost and time, but the client didn't want to, you know, it's actually wrong for them not to process it until the very, very end. But they do that. Why? Because they want to play sneaky. They want, first, they are incompetent. No, they didn't bother. You know, their engineers didn't bother. The team didn't bother. Then secondly, sometimes they are very, very lazy. They just didn't do it, you see. And third, it could be they want to be sneaky. Then after that, you do the job already. Everything is there already. Then they come and negotiate with you. Ayo, so expensive, cheaper a bit lah, you know. Or they go in the mode of, hey, I never asked you to do it leh. I never approved the VO leh. You do it, it's your own problem. Like what Amalina's case was here. They don't want to pay you even. And then what can you do, you see? And now, because you didn't receive a formal VO. Okay, so these are the things that is the procedures. So when you write the assignments, you must write from the perspective of the procedures. You must also write from the perspective of the valuation of a variation. What are the contractor should only carry out the instructions for variation upon receiving a VO, not SI. Okay. Then the second thing is you must properly rate your variation, meaning that you must put in a valuation and they must agree with the valuation. And the valuation can come from either using building out from the contract sum, meaning that I see all the contract sum, this portion of work is this much, this portion of this work is this much. So you build up the rate based on the contract sum available or based on the schedule of rates that are available. And those things are not in the schedule of rates. In the BQ or schedule of rates, you refer back to the contract, the final contract sum, and look at and pick up the individual component of the cost based on that contract sum, which is very, very complicated, honestly. Very, very complicated. And you do not want to do that. And a lot of this method that is value using the contract sums can be very, very disputable. Then if you don't use it, then what do you use it? If it's not available in your schedule of rate or your BQ, you use a separate price schedule. Again, that means you use maybe industry punya rate ka, you use CITV punya rate ka, you use JKR punya rate ka, etc., etc. And or you use other contract sum punya rate that is available from another contractor by the developer ka, or within the same company ka, or something like that. So that one is doable also, but again, it's disputable also. Sometimes if the rate is too high, the client doesn't want to accept it. If the rate is too low, the contractor don't want to accept it. So this one needs to be agreed by both parties. And then where is the time that you must really look after the valuation? You must look after it during tendering stage. Look at all the potential rates. To check out all the rates that that may need to have VO later. If you're expecting some VO, check out whether those rates are available to be there before the signing of the contract. Okay, or really look into the rate. Ask the contractor to put down the rate properly in the schedule of rates. Whether there's a VO or not, don't talk about it yet. We don't know. Maybe there's a case. Then put in different tables for them to fill up during the tendering stage, and then you check those rates. Many QSs and engineers, they really fail to look at those rates carefully, whether it is reasonable to have those rates there. Because sometimes the contractor they think that there may be VO or that this is a provisional sum, they may put the rate very high, certain of the rates, just so that if there is a VO or if the provisional sums gets to be more, they can actually claim more money from there, you see. Or sometimes they purposely put the provisional sum very low because they expect the work is not as much, on site, because they know that the area, maybe the piling doesn't have so much. So they purposely put the rate very low so that they put the profit, the sure profit elsewhere. See, they want to make profit from this piling, they put the profit, expectation of the profit elsewhere in other fixed part of the contract. Many different strategies. So those rates sometimes is not as accurate as we think, you see. So yeah, please be very careful. And the other one is especially with omission. For you to omit, when you have something, it's always easier to negotiate. But when we want to omit something, contractor normally will be very, very upset if you want to omit some certain parts of his work, unless it also involves him, his EOT, mean that the time, because when you omit, normally you don't deduct the contract time. So that he can finish his work faster, he's happy also sometimes. Okay, but there are times whereby you omit a very part of the work that the very, very part of the work that actually is making money for him. So obviously he doesn't want to lah. And so that part has very, very good rates, and then you actually omit it out, then he doesn't like it lah. And client also sometimes very pandai, they omit it out because that part, the rate is very, very high. So you want to leave it and give it to somebody else to do who is cheaper or something like that, I tell you, there's all sorts of people in this world, all sorts of people who are trying to be smart, who are smart, or who are trying to be smart but end up being bothered. There are many type of people who have no principle, no ethics at all. They use contract more like as a loophole rather than to properly respect what is there. So with variation of omissions, again, sometimes if you base it on the additional separate schedule outside the contract, it's disputable. You use the one that is built up, it's actually, you take up that whole sum of the work that is so high that the contract sum becomes unreasonable. For example, you have a $500,000 job, you take up 1/4 of it, but 250,000 was taken out. So that as a contractor, I would dispute that rate. So what would the court say about it? So I give you examples of this case of Hogarth versus Aeon Climate. This one here is an overseas case. So this one here, it's about they use the rate, to take out the sum, and then end up the whole portion of the work, total was actually almost all taken out, and just because they didn't use a particular machine, so it wasn't reasonable. So the employer argued that they want to take out according to the stated rate in the contract, the build up of the contract rate, and the other one says that no, we don't want, you see, so they end up in court. But also there's other issues why they end up in court, and this is only one of the reasons now. But you read through this case and you understand that why at the end of the day the court actually look at whether it's reasonable or not. You see, it's always based on the principle of whether things are reasonable or not. So yeah, so if it's only can be achieved via a build up of the contract sum, then we will use the contract sum. If it's not reasonable, we use an additional agreed rate. Then everybody has to agree on it. But if this is a case of dispute already, and dispute we will be covering very heavily today. Okay, and yeah, and then we also cover suspension of work and design liabilities, suspension of work. And last week also I gave you guys recording on law of tort will deal with this portion of the work, design of works, okay? And also generally contractor has liability in terms of his work that he accomplished. He has responsibilities. So is based on not contract anymore, but it's actually on the law of tort. And the contractor can be sued for negligence, so can the designer be sued for negligence. For the entire contract, it's only the design of works that is very, very directly related to the law of tort. Normally, but not to say that entirely the contractor also and the designer must be liable in terms of tort as well, TORT. So I hope you've gone through the 8 recording, because after the class, the following day I posted 8 recording, and that 8 recording is on the law of tort, which is all applicable to all contractors, all suppliers, all engineers, because even though we don't have a contract with our even though we don't have a contract with the person that is using our final product, but because on the principle of we must look after the people near us, possibly knowing that that person is under our vicinity of responsibilities, like the house buyer or the road user or the machine operators in your factory the people who are working on the platform that you have built offshore, all these things are actually, these people don't have a contract with you, but reasonably, foreseeably, you are actually responsible for their health and safety, and property in that sense. So if they are injured, and then all the financial implications based on their injuries actually do happen, then these people can sue you as a professional, as a contractor, as an engineer. Why? Because it gives room for general public like us to be protected in a way, and for professionals to be careful with their action. It has that deterrence kind of impact for tort. But to prove the law of tort, we must be very careful whether that person can be sued for negligence. There's many conditions: duty of care, standard of care, and the actual negligence. And then in many cases, the claimant, meaning that the person who is suing, needs to prove the case very clearly that the negligence did happen. Why? Why we make it so difficult? You're already trying to protect the public. You're trying to make professionals more careful. But if you're too loose in the law, meaning that everybody can start suing everybody, you walk on the street also, you help somebody, you can be sued, or you jaga the nenek cross the road, and then suddenly her tongkat broke, and and her leg got sprained, and then she needed to stay in the hospital for 2 months, and then she sue you for not taking care of her enough, kind of thing. Do you want that? So it will make a very crazy, selfish society. It will create a very crazy, out of the mind, selfish kind of society if that happens. That means police also don't want to work. Takut nanti kena sue. Nurses also don't want to work. Doctors also don't want to work. They are very careful. They don't want to say the truth. They don't want to carry out the work carefully. They want to carry out the work carefully until too careful. You don't sign, I don't operate. You don't pay, I don't operate. You don't say yes, sign a indemnity agreement, I don't want to operate on you. Your kids go to school, the teacher also scared of them, because takut nanti kena sue by you. So these are why we make the law of tort very stringent in terms of proving for negligence. But it is there to protect, it is there to deter, deter people from being careless, also protect people who are innocently, affected by your work. So that also comes back to this design of works. This is only a portion that is related to liability, design liability, which is more on the law of tort. Okay, and then we walk through suspension of work. Okay, and then we went through why we suspend work and the effects of suspensions. Yeah, we cover that, and then the procedures, etc. Yeah, this one is very long, the suspension of work, and the bottom line is the contractor or service provider cannot simply suspend their work because you don't have the contractual right to suspend your work under non-payment. But if you suspend your work under non-payment, then you are actually not diligently doing your duty. But the client can suspend. Contractually, they have right to suspend work. It is written in the contract due to various reasons such as national security or external factors like COVID and pandemic. A lot of sites suspend their work, and that is legal. That is fully, that is contractually okay. Yeah, for the client to suspend the work due to COVID or pandemic. Okay, but then they must, but if the client suspend, they must pay everything up to the point of suspension. They must clear all the debts that they owe to the contractors and all the suppliers upon suspension. Okay, so it must be worked out properly. And I think a lot of clients are using suspension as an excuse not to pay people. And again, like I say, the world is comprises of many types of people. Like like the Chinese saying always say, one type of rice raise thousands type of individual. Meaning that semua makan nasi sama, tapi mengapa semua orang tak sama? The way the behavior are very, very okay. So yeah, so do expect, use the world are full of bad people, but they are good people around. We must believe that. Otherwise, we all go crazy. And then if everything contract, susah juga kan, we live our life in a very difficult way in that sense, A lot of things we still have to look for reasonableness, logicalness, practicalness, practicalness, that kind of, no practicalness, that kind of word is singly punya vocabulary, practicality, logic, and reasonableness. Okay, so there are some basic humanity involved when we are actually involving the transaction with one another, ethics especially, moral especially, yeah. And okay, then the things is other things are termination. We went through termination as well. Okay, we forgot actually. Yeah, termination is almost like suspension, but normally termination can involve just peacefully terminating, meaning that the work is finished already. I hand over the site to you. The contract is being formally terminated. It's one very simple, very straightforward way of work performance termination. Then, of course, it can be because the contractor default, meaning that somebody defaulted, not only the contractor, the owner defaulted or the contractor defaulted, so we can terminate the work. So if the client don't pay, you can activate termination, but you cannot terminate suspension of work. Okay. Then other things like, for example, termination due to the client's own financial issues and all that is possible as well. And also due to other things like natural disaster, those sort of reason as well, very close to suspension, but termination means the entire contract is stopped already lah, and the contractor is entitled to damages and also any of the cost that is involved prior to termination. So the procedure is similar with suspension. The big of preparing the payment, preparing the accounts, and then the contractor can take the machineries, everything out from the site, and then the workers can leave the site, etc. It just involves a bit more step compared to suspension now. Suspension means that everything must still be there, but then you just don't work, you see. But then the termination means that the entire contract is already being stopped already. Okay, it's really entire. The contract is not in effect anymore, and contract can also be terminated due to some legal issues, like maybe there are some clauses inside there that are misrepresented or mistakes, or somebody signing the contract is not supposed to sign. Legal factor, you can also terminate the contract. Okay. Yeah. Questions so far? If not, then we move on to nominated suppliers and subcontractors. This is the last two portions of a contract already. The last three portions, okay? Nominated suppliers and subcontractors. Subcontractors, as usual, is engaged by the contractor to carry out part of the works in the contract, okay? Whilst suppliers are those that provide materials and related service for installation of such material. These are, if the direct engagement from contractor, they choose their own subcontractor and suppliers to work for them, and of course they would usually give the name list to their selection. They inform that these are the subcontractors that they're using for this job. Okay, these are considered as domestic subcontractor. Okay, so the word domestic subcontractor or suppliers are selected by the contractor themselves, but they do inform and get certain permission from the client for using these subcontractors. Okay, but they are not recommended by the client, and obviously they need permission. So if the client does not give permission, means that they don't really like these people, they can have the right to ask them to change, but then they cannot impose on who they want them to use, who the client wants the main contractor to use. Okay? Nominated subcontractors are the one appointed by the client. Okay, they are directly under the appointment, so all obligation will lie on the contractor, but they are appointed by the client. These are nominated subcontractors and suppliers, meaning that the client specifically select the subcontractor or suppliers to do or supply specific parts of the work. Okay, the main contractor does not have any say. Okay, in a way, even though the contract is still signed between the subcontractors and the contractor, but everybody knows that this is an appointment from the client. The reason why they do that is because sometimes the client wants very specific control over specific part of the work, or there are specialists that they themselves really want to use a specific brand that they want them to use. So then they put in nominated subcontractors and suppliers. Okay, and also some, because the suppliers and the subcontractor are directly involved in the design process, so they are nominated, even though the contract is being signed. But in a way, nominated subcontractors are more protected than normal domestic subcontractor. Okay, and there's another one that says name. Name is the same, effectively the same, but the list is from the client. So it's like in between domestic and nominated. Usually now we just directly go for either a domestic one or a nominated one. We would hardly use name. Many of the contract now we don't use name anymore. Name is just too macam like too alang-alang kind of thing, you know. I give you the list, you select from my list. You know, then can I say no? You know, it's like pattern lah, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, so just either you let me select my own, you just give permission, or you select, I telang, you know, I will swallow whatever you select. That is how it works. But contractually, subcontractors are under the contractor directly. Okay, all the responsibilities, whatever the contractor must control the subcontractor. Whatever wrong that he do, you must bear responsibilities. And then whether EOT ka or whether losses ka or whatever you want to share with subcontractor, it has nothing to do with the client. It is your agreement with the subcontractor for risk sharing and all that. It is your contract with the subcontractor as a contractor. Okay, so you must have proper subcontracting agreement. Otherwise, even though you have nominated, you know, a subcontractor appointed by the client, you must also properly take up the risk transfer bit by having a proper contract with the subcontractor between the main con and the subcon. Yeah. And why this? You decided, you forced me to makan his portion, and yet you forced me to take this guy, and then you want me to take responsibility for your selection. Because you are allowed to make a profit from whatever work that he has done, you see. So if let's say you mark up, in your contract from the nominated subcontractor punya portion, you can. They allow you to do that. Okay. But the other thing is, we must remember that the client can campur tangan more easily lah. Let's say you didn't pay the nominated subcontractor, and if they go crying to the client actually have the right to pay them directly and deduct from your portion. That is the one power that nominated subcontractor may have compared to domestic subcontractor. Domestic subcontractor, normally the client don't simply suka pay, even though they cry to the client, my man can't never pay me, I want to mati already, my life is terrible, I want to commit suicide already, I want to go bankrupt already. Yes, the client can consider directly paying, but he has to be more careful because if he pays and because of the reason is that guy didn't do a good job and the mancom didn't pay, there's a reason why the mancom hold his thing, you campur tangan, it can be very complicated later. But nominated don't have that problem because you are the one that forced the main con to engage him. So if he doesn't get paid, you can pay him directly. Okay, so there is more of a directness from client nominated subcontractor. That is something that you have to remember. And all contractor must take out before he go in a site at all or take possession of the site, he must prepare insurance. And there will be two policies. The must in Malaysia is contractors' all risk and woodland compensation. Contractors' core risk will cover all risk that is in the construction project and join name with the client. So it is referred to contract works insurance sometimes, okay? And yeah, it covers like everything lah, basically lah. But as usual lah, insurance punya pasal. The moment you need to claim, dia punya procedures panjang lah. And then I say insurance company are just all con men lah, honestly. Banyak pattern lah. Then they will, bring out all this fine print, say that, this one cannot claim, that one cannot claim, or you want to claim this excess, you need to pay, like you want to claim for something 8,000, but you need to pay yourself 5,000, and you can only claim 3,000. That is the meaning of excess. You see, so the bigger the insurance is, the higher the excess is, and all that. There's a lot of this fine line clauses with insurance, but formality lah, just the client feels better lah, they feels more protected lah in that sense lah. Workmen's compensation are usually dealing with accidents and safety of workers, such as death and injuries, occupational diseases, and all that. That is under workmen's compensation. Somebody die on the site, if you have a workman's compensation, then they will pay 50,000, 60,000 per worker kind of thing. And it's not legal not to have insurance for your site. It is illegal actually. Contractually, you must provide. Whether it works or not is another story. Yeah. And don't depend too much on insurance, please, because like I say, the moment you need them, they always find a reason why you cannot claim, or why you need to pay a high excess before you can even claim. There's quite a lot of these stories with insurance. Basically, insurance are just, like I say, more professional, legal kind of conning money, from people. Nothing happens, they keep all the money. Something happens, they make it hard for you to claim until you couldn't be bothered claiming, you see. And you might as well it's faster, easier to just fork out from your own pocket to settle everything. Right. But that is my perspective. But still, like I say, every one of us do own a life insurance. Every one of us do own some insurance. It just make ourselves feel a bit better lah, kan? Like, got something there lah, it's my responsibility to take up insurance. Just like the site also, just like any project also. You take up insurance, it's just for the peace of mind and to follow contract properly. That's all. Okay? Yeah. All right, I think that's all from me to cover contract. The other last thing is dispute. Whenever you have dispute, how do we settle dispute? This is also part of a contract. Usually in 1-2 clauses, they will cover that. Yeah. So let's take a short little break, okay? For you guys to just stretch yourself and yeah, absorb this thing. If you have any questions, we talk after this about 5 minutes, okay? So we come back around nine o'clock, yeah? Okay, are you guys still around? Hello? Are we still online? Oh, Zainuddin, you're in already, huh? Wait, let me open the QR code again. Anyone still around? Good. At least Amira is. My attendance. Yeah. Zain, you want to take the attendance? Or anyone needs manual attendance? Let me see. If you want to shout out your student number, you can give me your student number. I can type in your attendance for you. If you cannot do manual you cannot do QR code. Don't know lah, why. Okay, anyone else needs manual? Manual or QR? Yeah. Okay, no response. Never mind. Okay, request for manual. Give me your student number. Give me your student number, Zain. 21030473, right? Okay, in already. Okay, now let's move on. Okay. My notes. Okay, now, like on a site or any of your corporate world, it doesn't matter which engineering field you are in. Am I still sharing screen? Okay. Oh yeah, I'm still sharing screen. Oh dear. Okay. So in any of the corporate work, in any of the engineering work, we do have this agreement over certain things. You see, a lot of times because of our own interest in certain settings in your organization, in a project, your own position, your own culture, your own training, your own perspective, your own mentality, your own understanding of certain issues or contract or whatever, we do get into disagreement with one another. Okay. But to say a disagreement is something that is very mild, very gentle. I disagree with you, but does not mean that I don't respect your perspective. There will always be ways that we can come together and resolve our disagreement. So those disagreements that can be resolved, that we can find a middle line, that we can be gently trying to work it through, those are nothing, no big deal. Okay. Then, but if this disagreement or quarrels that we have end up escalating it into a conflict, okay, and that conflict is different already. Conflict is usually a disagreement, a very serious disagreement. It can be between department with department. It can be between external party and your company, and it can be between yourself as project team members, or it can be involving like the other party in the contract, like client with contractor, client with consultant, client consultant with contractor, or consultant contractor with client, or client with consultant with contractor, very very common as well, especially SO, and also contractor. So these are different people in a contract, and then we have a disagreement, and that disagreement become an issue, a big issue, a serious issue. Okay, so this is how we define conflict. So then a conflict will usually go from early stages, like it will go into from nothing, can be something very small, then the disagreement continue, and then it goes on, and then if no peace enforcement are actually put in, then it will stay up here for a long time before it will come down. Okay, so at the end of the day, all dispute needs to be managed, and we have to understand as officers to a contract, your job, okay, as officers of a contract, your job, okay, it's like, I don't know how many times I've emphasized this to a lot of my engineers. Sometimes they are the causes of the dispute, and then they do not want to resolve dispute. They think that they are the faithful agent of the client, to a point that they forgot that they are the officers of the contract. You see, I use the word officers of the contract almost every class that I go through with you, because you have another layer of identity as engineers, whether you're chemical engineers, whether you're civil engineers, or whether you are QS, you all have professional duties in the contract to uphold the peaceful environment of the contract. So the first thing that you do when a conflict actually happens is to not let it go into a dispute case. Okay, conflict, an agreement that has already gone up to a conflict stage is already serious enough, and that usually will involve very strong disagreement. You may not want to talk to one another. Nobody wants to buck in any sense. That is a conflict already. That nobody wants to give in, nobody wants to compromise. There's no middle way at the moment. So the SO, the supervisors, as officers of the contract, yes, you are the agent of the client, but you are also officers of the contract. Meaning that your first duty is to prevent, and if cannot prevent, you need to conflict manage first before it goes into dispute management. So when we come to this area up here, crisis and enforcement, these are already like going into a dispute kind of resolution. But conflict management, your job is to make sure that everything goes back to zero, meaning that big things become small, small things becomes nothing. Okay, that is your job. Don't escalate it. Don't go and push it into people's face, and don't make it worse. Your job is to do conflict management. You need to manage conflict. You need to make it into, you need to zeroize it, not escalate it to a dispute level. Okay, so that is your main role. As all the officers of the contract, you are the immediate mediator. You are the central people that needs to mediate, needs to, do some. You are the conflict manager. People will have to come to you, trust you to resolve this conflict, and you need to resolve it in a very peaceful manner as much as possible. So in that sense, we need to, for all officers of the contract, please bear in mind, when there is dispute, your job is not to side sapa. Your job is to honestly, fairly, and justly try to manage a conflict so that it can be zeroized. It can be back to nothing. It can be resolved, and everybody is happy and continue to go on their work. Okay, so this is some of the definition of conflicts. There are some destructive conflict and constructive conflict. So constructive conflict, these are all very theoretical things. constructive conflict appropriately balance the interests of both parties to maximize opportunity for mutual gain. So something can be, some things can happen, but it can be resolved very positively, and then the result is everybody's happy, and then it actually brings more benefit to the project. Just like constructive conflict. Destructive conflict, of course, is it will put things to us, it will maybe hurt one of the person, somebody will be dissatisfied, the environment will lead to very negative outcome, there's frustrations, there's anger, there's dislike, there are, all this I don't want to work with that person anymore, and sometimes even go up to a point of suspension, termination, all this sort of very interesting things can happen, see? And non-payment, refuse to give EOT, etc., etc. So there, we do have a lot of these sort of destructive conflicts. All right. So examples of constructive and destructive conflicts. Contractors and QS disagree about how much he should get certified from his claim for payment. This is a typical conflict. Contractor and nominated subcontractor are not getting along. Contractor late for site meeting, and then the manager is not happy with his attitude. That means he feels that he's not diligent, not working diligently, and supply and not being paid, and some people want to go to court, and I mean a lot of these different type of sources of dispute, like can be from work scope, can be from contract, can be from personal, can be from dispute over cost, dispute over time. You ask me to do extra work, how come you never give me extra time and want to give me NCR some more, These are not the work that is part of the contract. I do it for you already, and yet you give me an NCR, for example, non-compliance report or non-conformance report. A lot of, I'm sure a lot of you face these issues because we're dealing with human beings on site. We're not dealing with robot that you set yes, it's a yes, no, it's a no, move forward, and the robot, you ask the robot to move forward, it doesn't move backwards. You ask him to go to east, he doesn't go to west. You ask him to sit, he doesn't stand. So we are all people with different cultures, different family backgrounds, with different education background, even QS with engineers, with architects, we also can have conflicts because of our education background, what we care about, what our focus is, what our attention focus is very different from one another. And many of these sometimes are personal preferences, the character of the person in charge of the work, the SO, the client, the representative. These are a lot of reasons why dispute can come, disagreement can come from all these sources, very small things. But then because it's not resolved, it boils down to costing, and simple NCR that needs to be rectified can go escalate into cost issues, schedule issues, and then end up as a personal issue, or you feel that it's not your fault, why should you be bearing responsibilities? And that are some very typical nature of the dispute. Okay, so contract phase, pre-contract phase, post-contract phase, so we have many sources of dispute. But that doesn't matter. Let's move on to dispute, going into conflict management. First, you just want to prevent conflict. So before it actually even started, you can feel it coming. So make sure that you resolve it as soon as possible. That would be prevention and direct prevention. A structured prevention, on the other hand, focus on putting long-term kind of measures so that in the future, if the same thing happens, we will resolve back to this SOP macam itu, So it can be that way also. But these are all very theoretical things, But I would like to have more on when it happens. If you cannot prevent it, it's already happening. Then what can we do? What can we do? You see, so we want to handle dispute. Okay, prevention, of course, is the best. Just don't let it even happen. Nail it down. When the nails start to stick out, you take a hammer and kabam, it goes down. Then tak dapat tengok lagi. That one is the best. But of course, not everything is so smooth in life, So how do you handle? So you must, as a manager, try to, like I said, stick to the principles of let's try to find a win-win situation for everybody. So in terms of conflict, it should be managed by everybody. Then it will go into try to go into more civilized kind of discussion instead of shouting and calling names and getting angry over things. Try to build up your team in that sense, huh? The manage of dispute resolution. There's not. I don't want to use the word dispute. Dispute is for later. This is conflict. Conflict resolution can be confronting, compromising, soothing, avoiding. So as a contract manager, as a contract administrator, as an SO, as a from different parties, or from the supervisors, as the SO, as an architect, or as a representative from the client, when you manage dispute, I keep on saying what the dispute. When you manage conflict, okay, first you prevent it. You try to get SOP to prevent it for long term. But if it does happen, and it's something that is unavoidable, you must manage it. And these are 5 ways of the most basic 5 ways of managing conflict first. Okay, right? Forcing, collaborating, compromising. Middle part is compromising. The low level one is accommodating, soothing. It takes a lot of people skill to do this. Okay, confronting just means that you treat the problem, you just you face the problem, disagreement face on, and then you treat the problem. You go in and make sure that everybody just talk and force each other to confront the issue and give way if somebody needs to give. We find a solution and everybody follow that solution, and that's it. Don't talk anymore. We confront it. Confronting should be used when both parties needs to win, and then you have time. Then you have how to say make sure that these people. There must be willingness there, when you realize that these people are actually they want to get on with the job, they don't want to waste time on this, that they are quite easy to talk to, then you just force them to confront each other and say, okay, now let's get the solution out. You agree or not? Yes, agree. Both, you're happy with this, so we find a middle ground that we confront them and push them to get it over and done with. That is confronting. So it is also a bit of a hard-handed way in that sense. It's more stronger in that sense. Usually it's a more aggressive way when you do that. These are examples of confronting. So 2 team members approach the manager with the conflict they're having with each other. So one is aggressive and try to get the manager to make a decision. Another one is quiet and seem to be less willing to talk. So conflict causes delay. So then what the manager is choose to confront the issues, because confronting is like they force them to sit down and figure out the solution, and then both use a solution right then and there. So that is confronting. Okay. So even the aggressive one, he needs to tone it down. The other one that is a bit more quiet, getting to talk and then get it solved. So compromising means usually there's some form of bargaining going on. Somebody is receiving something in exchange for something, So, we sometimes do that. We make sure that it's more like a win-win now. So you compromise that. Maybe you can give a bit of EOT here, but you don't give losses. You trade off something. It's more negotiating here. Okay, so with compromising, it's more negotiating. So if there is party who are in that kind of conflict, if you want compromising kind of technique, you must know what one party is really concerned about and what that one party is willing to give and what the other party is willing to give and how much he's willing to telang and swallow and be on the losing side. We must understand all this first before we can use compromising. Otherwise, you are not compromising. You're just forcing somebody to be on the losing side. So compromising is a very neutral kind of thing. End up with more gentle, more it's like opposite of confronting in that sense. Compromising is more gentle in a way. Okay, Yeah, and compromising is when you're in a deadlock, meaning that things are not moving, at all. So you just want to make sure that confronting fails already, because the solution that is provided, nobody wants to do it. So compromise means that now you're actually forcing one party to give up something and the other party to give up something also. So all fair and square kind of thing. Yeah. Smoothing is very, very gentle. So this one is the skill of a project manager, that you have to be pandai pandai lah, You talk nicely to this one guy, you close the door, and then you say, okay, now let's talk, why you feel that way? Why is like that? Okay, let me go and talk to him. We will find a solution. You don't worry. Things will work out to be fine, So you smooth it out, You make everybody feel, okay, no big deal. You make the situation very, like, really everybody is hot-headed already, like panas panas palak sudah semua itu. So then you want to cool everybody down, and then after that they see some senses, it's actually not a big deal, So okay, then you move on to compromising and resolving and all that. Okay, so yeah, so soothing is actually when the stakes are very low, when it's just a very small issues actually. Yeah, and people still want to keep goodwill. They don't want to get angry for a long time. You need to understand the situation that calls for smoothing, compromising, confronting, and all that. Yeah. And then forcing. Forcing is the hardest. Forcing is just directly opposite of smoothing in a way. Forcing is just like, don't say, I say this, you just do it. It's like, it can be one party losing. I force you to give it to this guy. Like, no more negotiation, you see. Because you are wrong, you have to do this and get it over and done with. That is forcing, yeah. So that, you only use it when you're right, and it's an emergency situation. Now everybody's sitting there fighting and nobody's doing it, and then something is going to happen. You've got to be using a forcing kind of situation. You have to be strong in this. So these are forcing kind of methods. And the last one is avoiding. Avoiding is very funny. A lot of this avoiding is like manager. You just don't want to see these people. You withdraw. You go and hide somewhere until these people themselves cool off by themselves. It's a very good way, but sometimes because you are there is a point of reference for them to keep on shouting. You understand or not? It's just like some of you are parents here, maybe some of you are not. But when you have two kids fighting, it's a very tribal kind of issues. But because you are there and everyone wants to have the last say, but if you disappear, as okay, I don't want to talk. You don't talk to me. I don't want to know. You just go and settle yourself. And that one is, then after a while they actually stop. So withdrawal does not mean it's not good. That doesn't mean that you're avoiding. You are avoiding. You are actually prevent. It's different from preventing. Avoid is basically things already happened. You just make yourself unavailable in that sense for them to continue their issue lah. But sometimes unavoidable cannot work for some people, because some people, they like to get things solved. And when you have two parties, one is a type that non-confrontational one. He go and hide, and he doesn't want to reply phone call, doesn't want to reply memo, doesn't reply email. You go and knock on his door, he doesn't want to open the door. That one, if you face up with another party who are actually very, very confronting one, I tell you, this one will definitely escalate one. Okay, so you may need to get somebody who actually knows how to handle this and find a compromise. So all these techniques are actually interchangeably used with one another. There's no such thing as one technique used for everything. It's all part of negotiation. It's all part of understanding your opponents in this sense, who are actually in conflict with you, understanding the two parties who are in conflict, or whether you're the middleman or whether you are the person in conflict. These sort of things, you need to understand your opponents, what makes them, what they are sensitive to, what they are most concerned about, what their limits are, what their boundaries are, what their ethics are, and what their culture are even. I just gave a class to my student last Thursday about culture and how culture, the behavior of individual, that is culture from religion, that is culture from family values and races, and all this all have an impact on business negotiation, because and communication. Mainly is communication, because some culture, when you look at people in the eye, it's good. It means sincerity. But some culture, if you look at people in the eyes and talk like that, it's actually bad up. You see, so we need to understand what is the culture of the other opponents that you are actually in. And some communication, some non-verbal, some communication skills. Some people don't communicate. Like Japanese don't communicate upfront, but Western would, kind of thing. And Chinese, they will always bring you out for a meal, makan, 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 minum, minum. But at the end of the day, the issues are not that is completely avoided. That kind of. So you can see from culture, from the way that people behave, from the way it comes from their background, will determine what sort of technique you must understand them. You must integrate, understand, and also uh, 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 understand first, and then accept first that there is differences here, and then sometimes you have to adapt even and find ways to go around it, and then that would be integration already, you see. So you must understand your opponent and where they are coming from. The same goes with conflict. So you need to understand the culture behind the individual or that group of individual. Like I said, even education can affect, and differences in food, differences in clothing. These are all very basic kind of uh, uh, um, negotiation methods that you must understand. You see, from the other party. When you manage conflict, also the same. When you do business negotiation, also the same. When you're trying to quick a deal or no deal, is also the same. You see, so it's dealing with people. It's a people kind of thing. So in a lot of cases, because of differences in each other, you do not handle conflict very well. You don't understand that person. Or it gets worse because you don't understand the person. Like me, I always give this example. After I graduated from universities and I was in my first job, and I had a dinner. I had to go for a corporate dinner, and on the table there was different bankers, different contractors, and all that. And in come a guy. He shake hand with every single person on the table, and when he comes to me, he ignored me completely. I was very upset. I was so upset. I felt so upset. I actually was psychologically, emotionally damaged kind of feeling. Why is that? What's wrong with me? Is my hand dirty now or whatever? I didn't understand. And I am a Malaysian. I'm a born bred Malaysian. You're going to Malaysian schools, have different friends, from different culture, from different races. But of course, I came from an old girls' school, you see. So then I realized that after many years, I realized that it's because this guy is a Malay man. He doesn't shake hand with ladies. I was in, emotional trauma in that sense for many years, you see. So I got very angry with that person, for sort of insulting me in that sense, you see. So you see, when you have that kind of issues, when you don't understand where the other parties is coming from, you are going to be putting yourself up for a lot of um um, disadvantage in that sense. You will hit a lot of wall, because you do not understand. See? So again, yeah, this is just a very simple example that we have on understanding, like at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is in terms of communication, negotiation, dispute, or even conflict management and dispute resolution, all of this boils down not just contract or rules regulations law. Yes, definitely can. But it doesn't solve the problem most of the time. You need to look into people and the people relationship and the behavior and where they're coming from, and the understanding of people is very important, more important in conflict management, dispute resolution, and negotiation, business negotiation, even price negotiation on the table, negotiating for BO negotiating for EOT negotiation for damage all these are negotiation. Negotiation for a contract price negotiation get a deal or communication in general. It will make you it can if you have a good understanding and a good acceptance and a good study of your opponent, it will put you on the edge of winning a lot more than those people who go in and try to resolve all these things or try to take actions. Okay, so these are conflict management. And when we have conflict management, we have different type of resolution technique. Okay, but if there's a conflict at your level as officers of the contract, you cannot resolve already, you see? And then it goes down to a dispute level. When we say that dispute, it generally means that work has been suspended. The contractor refuses to continue working. They refuse to communicate with one another. And even all the way up to termination also possible, it can be dispute already. Why? Because you are not communicating with one another, you are just writing to one another, and you are not talking, you're not accepting any solution from your contract manager, from each other. There's no more compromising. None of this actually work already. And basically, you're just not even looking at one another. And the most serious level is, of course, suspension. Then payment are not made. And then even all the way up to termination, or these are all under dispute. There's few layers from a disagreement. You want to do prevention of conflict, and if conflict does happen, you need to have conflict resolution technique to come in and resolve it from the people level perspective, and get things settled before it escalates into a dispute. And if it goes into a dispute, then we will need to go for dispute resolution. Okay, so are we okay so far? In all contracts, there will be a clause that tells you that as a SO, as an architect engineer, you need to resolve conflict. Okay, so everybody needs to come in and get you to resolve the conflict first before we can go into dispute resolution method. Okay, when we talk about dispute resolution method, okay, it is like the condition precedent is the dispute has been tried, the conflict has been tried to be resolved at the site level, between the parties using conflict management technique. Of course, they don't say use conflict management technique, but it will always be say, first sentence will always be, okay, has the conflict been resolved among yourself, okay, before you can activate any of these dispute resolution clauses, okay? And in there will be a dispute resolution clause. In almost all contract will have a dispute resolution clauses, and I wouldn't say almost all for general contract that you write among yourself, but for all standard form, they all have dispute resolution clauses. They will all say that it's a condition precedent that you actually try to resolve it first among the SO or the architect engineers with the parties of the contract first. And then if that doesn't work, then we go into the next level. We escalate into the next level of dispute resolution. The most gentle way of dispute resolution, I will go by this, the most gentle way is mediation. In some places, we call it conciliation. Like, for example, mediation, I think is used in British, but The same process is used as conciliation in America, for example. It's just a language differences, but they all mean the same thing. But in UK, for example, mediation will be gentle, whereas conciliation will be stronger. Okay, stronger means that the conciliator will give opinion, they will give some suggestion for solution. Mediation is more gentle. You get them, you assist them to arrive at the agreed resolution of the dispute. Like I said, the dispute can come from as small as small disagreement that has been going into conflict and that has not been resolved. It brings in other issues like a simple non-conformance can end up as a EOT, end up as a payment issues. Then this has become big. So then when you reach this stage, it's just not trying to resolve a small disagreement, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a big issue already. And that revolves many aspects here. That's why you need a mediator. You need a third party to come in. You need to engage a third party. And all this process is expensive. None of this process is resolved like conflict on site. A project manager will try to negotiate. When you come to this stage, the problem is already multifaceted. Because it's so multifaceted that normal conflict management doesn't work anymore. It's too complicated. You need a third party to come in and manage this. That is dispute. Okay? And yeah, you see the word now is dispute. So there's two sets of notes here. One is conflict, one is dispute. So conflict is site level. Dispute is external because it's multifaceted. The problem could be dealing with law, legal, finer points of law. It can also be dealing with internal, with external. It can be multi-party. It can be different issues all in one dispute. Okay, so it's not so easy to be resolved. So this is why you need a third party. Like I said, mediation, you will get. Let's say we talk about it from a UK perspective. It will be trying to get them to work on it, to resolve the dispute by themselves. So at the back of the notes here, I have a mediation pros and cons. This one I think you can read. I will go through also. The mediation is first, the process is you appoint a mediator. Okay? And these two parties have to agree to an environment that is very conducive for negotiation. Maybe it's like mediator office guy is a very neutral place guy. It's no more the site guy. It's no more the other person's, the contractor's office guy. It's just a very nice room that you sit down. And then the process begins with the mediator saying that, okay, now this is the issues, this is the thing. And then he will also define his role that I'm here to help, everything is confidential. I'm a neutral person. I just want to look at the issue to get you, to help you guys as much as possible. You also lay down the ground rules for mediation, meaning no quarreling here, no shouting, no killing one another, no punching, no kicking, my role would be not giving any suggestions, But if you're a conciliator, you will say that I will give some suggestion at the end of it, but if you don't adopt, it's okay. So mediator don't. Mediator will just try to encourage you to come up with your own solution. His suggestion will be very, very mild, okay? But conciliator will be stronger. But in US, this is different. Mediator is stronger, conciliator is gentler. So depending on which, let's say if you're working in certain areas that is more based on US, it's just like some places you left-hand driving, some places right-hand driving now. Same concept, So if you go America, your driver's seat is actually on the left-hand side, So same thing, UK is on the right-hand side, So don't worry about the terms, but the process is about the same. So each party, will be invited to present his case, to air his grievances, why I am, why these things go up to this stage, and then the other party will present, and then after that the mediator will just try to diffuse any attacks on negative issues, and then try to create more, let's talk, okay? So, okay, I see that, you have these issues. So what happened after that? Why didn't in the normal course shouldn't we be handled it like this? Then why what happened here? Why then he will look at the other party and say, wouldn't you have been better if you have done this? You see? So then it sort of like makes him think the other one, party B, thinks, oh, okay, I would have done that. I should have done that, for example. And then maybe he said, oh, I didn't do this because of this. Oh, I see. So can you see his point? Party B. Then he will turn to party A. Oh, do you see his point now? You see? But the core of all these things is to maintain a good environment with a third party that encourage each other to talk. Okay. Obviously, everything is confidential, yeah. And then it's good everything is confidential, but the thing is the process that they arrive at. If let's say end up if you go for a stronger, let's say now you agree with a resolution method, but this resolution method can be overturned in court if the other party end up bringing it to court, and meaning that you wasted the effort completely lah. Yeah. So these are some of the disadvantage of mediation. So mediation is, like I said, the most gentle way among all the 4 ways of carrying out things. So then, you know, it will be after a few sessions, finally the mediator will get you guys to resolve it. Then you have a settlement agreement, and then this settlement agreement will be executed. So everybody follow this. Can you guys just like, so he will draft out the settlement agreement for all the parties as a mediator or as a conciliator, and then the process is over. So this is the process and practices of a mediator, which also involves these are some general rules here and then what type of mediator can be chosen, good reputation, can have experience, and good, like he knows the issue very well. So if this is a final point of law, you may want to get a lawyer to do it. But if it's like a very like dealing with a lot of technical data details, testing reports and all this sort of thing, you may need to have a specialist like an engineer or architect to mediate. So it doesn't resolve, you don't have to have a legal background to do mediator, but all mediator in Malaysia must be licensed and they must be trained. Okay, not any Aban Abu Ali can be a mediator. Okay, if you talk about mediator, it's very close to people doing conflict management. Same skills will apply also. Compromising, forcing, not forcing. Mediator don't use forcing. It's compromising, avoiding, getting you to confront with each other. There's a lot of these inner skills that are available, okay? And they have to be trained, they have to be licensed, they have to go for proper mediator training. So these are the general rules. You pick your mediator, you pick your location, and then you present your case, and everything is then you need to write a mediator agreement, settlement, that writes down who pays who what, or who do this, who do that, So these are the practice of mediation. Okay. For understand, this part of the notes 5.1 is about the dispute resolution method. 5.2 is about the dispute resolution advantages, disadvantages, the method, and then the third part is more on the processes and practices, how it's being done. So this completes the whole notes for the 4 dispute resolution method that is more serious, requiring third party to be involved. Okay. Then we move on to the next level up, which is getting to be more and more popular nowadays. We call it adjudication. Okay. So adjudication is also involving third party, it's an adjudicator. Okay, so you always appoint an adjudicator for a certain period of time. Okay, they are stronger than conciliator and mediator because their role is almost like an arbitrator, but this adjudicator is more personal for your project, meaning that for the entire length of the project, you may just use one adjudicator. And he will come in, let's say, every 3 months, or when there's a few cases or few dispute building up, and then this person will come in and be a judge kind of thing, be a person that get you guys to talk and get you guys to find solution. But his role is more of more formal. The whole process is a lot more formal than a mediation process. Okay, and adjudicators in UK is statutory adjudication, meaning that if it's housing grant and construction, you have to go for adjudication, meaning that you are forced to go for adjudication. You cannot choose mediation, you cannot choose arbitration, you cannot just go to court. It's almost like a mini court to solve problems, small problems for a construction project, for any engineering related projects, or any more for engineering lah. I mean, I would say at the moment now. So these educators, like I said, they are just smaller group of people. I mean, like just one educator or one or two educators that comes in, that will visit you, and that comes in and try to help you with dispute that has occurring on your site over a certain period of time. And then he will help you to make decision. He will even give you some solution, and that solution is binding in a way. So you can see that it's different from a mediator. Mediator, we do it outside. We do it at a separate location that everybody is comfortable with, whereby education can be done on your site. Come in here, then he will look through the documents, he will check through the work done, So adjudicator has to be the engineers, the architect themselves, somebody who knows the trade very well. You cannot simply get a lawyer or a judge or somebody with a legal background to come and be an adjudicator. Also, adjudicators have to be trained, they have to get licensed, okay? But their decision is also, they will give you solution, they will give you settlement, besides encouraging that settlement among yourself. Okay, so contractual adjudication means that PAM now put in go for adjudication. Okay, because adjudication is very effective. Arbitration and litigation is very formal. That one will need to have a proper setting of timing, venue. Like for example, litigation will be in court based on the court punya masa. Arbitrator is also a very formal settings that will need you to set a time, maybe 3 or 4 months down the track, before you can even go for arbitration. But adjudication can be immediate. They can come to the site and do it immediately, or even within a few weeks, it can be settled. It's more personal, it's more site-based, it's more project-based, whereas it's just less formal compared to arbitration, and that's why it's getting more and more popular. And in Malaysia now, in terms of statutory, it's very rare, okay, to use adjudication. Only PAM goes for that. But now, in 2012, there is the Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication Act that comes into enforcement in June 2012 by the Royal Assent, meaning that it has been passed through in Parliament. Now we have a statutory adjudication regimen for construction contract, meaning that if it's dealing with payment, okay, or other issues, you can activate adjudication. So even though the contract may not state adjudication, you can go for adjudication because there is a statutory adjudication regimen for construction contracts now. Okay. And now we are usually dealing with, like I say, it's a lot less formal compared to arbitration. So the resolution is a lot faster, and then at the moment, mainly we are still dealing with payment. Other technical things, we will not so much of using adjudication yet. Like I say, the practice is very, very, very slow in Malaysia. Even up to now, 10 years after the act has been acting, I don't see many cases being resolved using adjudication. Okay, right. Then what is the process of adjudication? Okay. So yeah, in terms of SIPA, which is what we're using here in Malaysia for payment, so you must initially follow the payment mechanism, meaning that, the claim, interim claim, certificates, everything must be the same. Okay, then the unpaid party will serve a payment claim on the non-paying party. So for those people who are actually having non-payment from your client, and you want to escalate this into a dispute cases, SIPA may be a way to go for. Okay, so the non-paying party, okay, could then admit or dispute the claim in whole or in part with 10 days of the payment claim, meaning that you must serve to the saying that I have dispute with you now, basically, on this non-payment. So he must acknowledge that, yes, I haven't been paying, or say, no, I'm not paying you because of this reason, and these are the reason why we're not paying you, etc. So we formally put everything into a process of dispute. This is again the formality lah. So if there's a failure to respond within this time, so then that means the entire payment claim is disputed, meaning that yes, now we are going into the adjudication dispute case already. So then it will be serving, the adjudication procedure will be initiated by serving a notice of adjudication by the claimant. Okay. Then after that, an adjudicator is being appointed by both parties within 10 working days on the serving of the notice. And then, yeah, but now a lot of these things are still being run by the arbitrator, which is taking a lot of time. But the normal adjudication process actually does not need to be made with requests, because they're using the arbitrator system to help with the adjudication system. So many of the arbitrators or adjudicators, they are trained arbitrators. So that kind of mixture in roles sometimes can create delays into adjudication. But supposed to be after you serve that notice, then we will nominated by, that it has to be nominated by IEM, by PAM, by the party themselves also can. You appoint the adjudicators. Okay. Then once the adjudicator being nominated, then you will actually talk about how much you need to pay the adjudicators and how long you need to work. You need to work on the terms of the adjudication. But again, this can be one time. The next time the same adjudicator is being used for your project, same thing can follow. You see, that is a good way. But for arbitration, it's case by case. You see, you cannot keep on going back. It's like a no repetition. After the case is closed, next time you may have to, same problem same project, other problem, you may have to appoint another, you start the whole process all over again. But adjudication, no. Okay. So then after that, these are all the process of serving this formality up and down, and then after that you start to resolve the case and then agree to the fees of the adjudicators and then the terms and agreement between the parties with the adjudicators, and then the adjudicators will go to your side, study the case, reach a decision, and formulate and deliver the decision within 45 days. Because this is payment, okay? Overseas, if it's all technical details before that, then the adjudicator can go to the site and study the case. Whereas this one here, maybe it's just looking at the documents, and delivering the solution within certain period of time. Okay, so this is SIPA. Under the SIPA, these are the processes that you have to go through, and then the decision will be in writing and served to the parties, and then and serve to the director who actually appoint you as adjudicators. Decision is binding. So like arbitration, decision is binding. So this adjudicator has a semi-court, semi-mini court kind of setting in that sense. Okay, but it's a lot less formal. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say here. I mean, like, of course, maybe it's a bit difficult to visualize because you haven't been to an adjudication process like that sense now. But like I say, it's a lot more formal than mediation, but a lot less formal than arbitration. Okay, so adjudication, like I said, the same adjudicator can be used again and again for your project, can be appointed by your company to look at the cases, all the cases in your project site. And at the moment, what we are setting here is SIPA. This is statutory legal adjudication action. But if you have an adjudication action that is contractually being activated, a lot of these conditions about serving agreements and all that, serving notices and all that, has to come from the contract themselves. It has to come from the contract themselves. Okay, and it has to be agreed by the parties themselves, and then the adjudicator come in and study the case, talk to you guys, make a decision, formulate it, and deliver the decision. That would be the process of a contractual adjudication. Okay. You guys understand so far? Okay. So then the third thing is arbitration. Obviously, arbitration is harsher. Like what I've described there just now, is a lot more harsher compared to adjudication, meaning that the process is still the same. It's also the same. It's all about it's also about third party coming in. Okay, and arbitration has an Arbitration Act 1952 that is in Malaysia. Okay, and that is amended in 2011, and then it has to be following also the Contract Act 1950, Evidence Act 1950, and Civil Law Act 1956. So arbitration is literally like a court. They are taking over the court kind of environment. Litigation is pure court. You have a judge, you have lawyers and all that. But arbitration is already like a court. It's already like not a mini court, but a mocked up court. You know, you don't have court, but it's the whole environment is a court-like environment. And arbitration can be done in a hotel, agreed by all different parties to go for arbitrator, which arbitrator to use and all that. And I will describe the process, but arbitration is usually contractual, meaning that it's stated in the standard form of contract that you need to use arbitration. For example, JKR 203, CIDB 2000, PAM 206, and PAM 206 says arbitration and adjudication both. You can choose. And JKR Sarawak form also talks about arbitration as well. Okay, so these are contractual dispute resolution method that is stated in the contract. You have no choice, you have to use them, meaning that you cannot go to court straight away. You have to resolve the dispute using arbitration. Okay, so what is the process of arbitration? Like I said, arbitration is like a mini court. They are not cheap, they're very expensive, but it's just a lot more private compared to going to court. Okay, so in terms of arbitration, it's very long now, the process. First, you need to appoint the arbitrators. You can go to the KL Chartered Institute of Arbitrators to ask for a recommendation for arbitrators. You can go to PAM, you can go to IEM, and you must agree on an arbitrator. Arbitrators are chartered arbitrators. They must be trained. Engineers, lawyers, managers, anybody with professional background can be trained as an arbitrator, but you can only arbitrate the things in your own trade, for example. And arbitration a lot now is taken over by lawyers, and lawyers, they always twist things to the final points of law, even though the case can be very technical things, but they earn your money by getting you to explain to them what are the technicality, what is spending moments, what is shear force, how does the machine operate, what is the chemistry behind your chemical, and all that kind of thing. So it's really a waste of time. It's almost like the purpose of arbitration has been destroyed by the legal fraternity. People in the legal environment saw this as a business opportunity, and they took over a lot of arbitration cases. And instead of being properly, you appoint a proper arbitrators for your technical cases, you end up appointing lawyers and judges, to do arbitration. And I think that is completely why arbitration is starting to be very, very unpopular nowadays, because you've got all these legal people coming in and trying to butterbelit you until you're wasting time and money and nothing gets solved at the end of the day. That is the situation with arbitration at the moment. But many years ago when it started, it's actually good because proper engineers are trained arbitrators. They are being appointed. So when they argue the cases in front of the arbitrators, just like a court environment, you argue a case in front of the arbitrator. It can be a tribunal of arbitrators, meaning that you've got 3 arbitrators or minimum 1 arbitrators are chosen. Then he must be impartial. There must not be any conflict of interest with any of the parties involved. Once you confirm on the arbitrators, he will tell you where to have the hearings. There is 3 ways of looking at evidences for arbitration. It can be just by short hearings, meaning that you will have exchange in documents, and then 1 or 2 hearings. Or you can have a proper proceedings, meaning that there will be a long court, almost like a court session, and repeatedly court sessions until everything is solved. Or you can have a very mild way of exchanging documents. You put the documents to the arbitrator's office, the arbitrator will look through the documents, and this is what most adjudicators do nowadays. Okay? Then there's no more arguments, no more presentation of the case. The arbitrator will give their award. The settlement is used, the word is award. Okay? Whereas court is called judgment. Yeah? So then they will go into the process of, this is the process of arbitration. So parties serve notice on the arbitrators, comment of the arbitrators, the other one agree, on the arbitrators, and then after that, or if nobody agrees, then somebody will appoint, like High Court will appoint an arbitrator. And when the arbitrating proceeding actually proceed, okay, within 15 days, okay, then you will need to, like I said, it can be exchange of document, it can be discovered. There's a time for discovery, inspection of documents, inspection of the cases, and there will be hearings, and there will be witness expert coming in. If it's a full hearing, then there will be presentation of evidences, expert witness, experts, and all that. You will go through just like a court proceedings, like what you see on TV, but it is actually in dramas on court cases, but it's done in a very private environment, and the arbitrator is not a judge. He is not a judge, okay? But the whole process is about somebody will argue your case for you. Normally, nowadays, lawyers will be appointed, but it doesn't have to be a lawyer. You can argue your own case. You prepare your own cases. You argue your own case. You present your witnesses. You present what goes wrong. You present the testing report. You bring in experts to prove your case. And the other party will, also do the same thing, and then there will be submission of witness statement, meaning expert statements and all that, and natural law, rules of natural justice will also be applicable. It's just like a court, but a very informal kind of court. Okay, so then after that, you may have proper, like I said, a proper formal arbitral hearing. It can be just by exchanging documents, or it can be a short hearing with discovery with short hearing. Okay, so there will be a pre-hearing case with pleadings, discovery, submission of documents, and all that. And it can stop there. If it's a very, very light kind of case, it can stop there. But it can also go into a short hearing with presentation of the case, but then it can go into a full hearing as well. There's three level of evidences presentation here. Right. So when the judgment is actually almost like a formal, is an arbitrator judgment is almost like a quasi-legal, not only a quasi is only 1/4. This is almost like a legal award, a legal judgment. Just it's not from court, but it will be enforceable in court. Okay. And then, but finally, if you go for court, let's say if you not agree with the arbitrators, always arbitrating, there will be always one party losing one. Somebody will be on the losing side, and then the judgment will be somebody paying for everything on the arbitration and all that. So it's more of a win or lose kind of case like normally when you go for arbitration. So that's why some people don't like it. And that's why I say arbitration is getting more and more popular, but still because the court, still because the of the arbitrators are actually doing adjudication. So obviously, if you're arbitrating, you are actually taking longer time and it's a lot more expensive. So if I'm an arbitrator trained to be an adjudicator, I will try to swerve my client to arbitration. That's why I think one of the reasons why adjudication is not very popular yet is because of this reason. The arbitrators, the lawyers, and all that are coming in the picture. They're dominating the market in that sense. Yeah, but I believe adjudication process is a lot more simpler, a lot more shorter, a lot more informal, and then the settlement is also binding. Okay, but then you just don't have to go through all the hearings, presentation of evidences, kind of thing. No need. It's just basically the adjudicator will hear from the two parties, go to the site and check the thing, or look at the documents, and write the settlement. You see, it's a lot faster, a lot more straightforward. Okay, compared to arbitration. But if arbitration takes so long and you have to pay the arbitrator few hundred thousands of ringgit or even few 10,000s of ringgit, whereby you pay arbitrators maybe 10,000, 8,000 to settle the case. And then if I'm the arbitrator, if I have been the arbitrator, obviously I want to go for arbitration, instead of doing a job as an arbitrator. And again, because adjudication now statutory is only for payment, you see, other cases are still not statutorily make adjudication, whereas most contractually arbitrations are always paid. And arbitration can be for any cases. It can be for finance cases, it can be banking, it can be for shipping, it can be for a lot of other cases, but then you need to use the arbitrator in that specific trade. Like engineering, construction, we use engineers, architects. It's better, okay, to argue for your case and also to argue for the technical fine point and to appoint PM and PAM can appoint arbitrators from the list of people who are trained, list of engineers and architects who are trained arbitrators. That is the fact. And you may bring in a lawyer to help you with the final points of law. That is the right way of doing arbitration. The trade person himself is the arbitrator, and then the witnesses and all that are being appointed. They are all proper trade people. Okay, then only the lawyers come in to help if there's anything legal. It's dealing with legal, like maybe EOT or LAT. There's legal things that are pointing there that needs a bit of a legal input. Then we bring in a lawyer as a witness guy or a lawyer to help with the case, you see. But now the ballet, everything is dominated by ex-retired judges, lawyers, and the trade people become a very, very minor role, you see. So that's why arbitration has been going down the drain because of that reason, especially for the construction industry. So hopefully, adjudication will be used a lot more better in the future because it is a lot more friendlier, a lot more shorter, or just simply go for mediation or conciliation. I think would be the best solution. The last one that I want to cover is litigation. I think litigation is, is court environment. We don't want to go for litigation. Nobody wants to go to court. Everything will be suspended if you go to court, you see. So yeah, like the process of going to court, you can, it's trials, it's actually hearings, it's actually Supreme Court, High Court, subordinate courts. You go for court by court, you can actually appeal upwards. It's basically following the legal systems of Malaysia for arbitration. Sorry, for litigation. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't have anything on litigation here because they are just basically court proceedings. Your lawyers can explain everything to you. You go to court, sit down at the expert witness swear, and then if it's nothing to do with criminal cases, then you don't have juries involved. Yeah. So yeah, and then the process is actually basically dealing with similar with arbitration, but a lot more serious. advantage and disadvantage of litigations here, because it's actually court environment. But the bad thing is everything will be out in public. Tomorrow the newspaper will show you, because everybody can go to court, okay? Listen to the case. It's actually opening up if there's a public nature to all court procedures, it can be publicized unless specifically asked not to be disclosed. Otherwise, your case will be, everybody in Kuching will know, everybody in Sarawak will know, that you have a legal case in court with, and the reporters can go there and listen to the case. You can go there and sit in and listen to the case, etc., etc. So litigation is not so good now. The decision is actually by a judge, and like I said, a lot of judges, they are not trained in construction. So then how? It takes so long to explain to them what is the technical data. So your court process can be very, very long, very, very long process, and it can take months. The hearing today cannot, the appointment for hearing today, and then discovery, and then 3 months or 6 months down the track, another hearing, and then 6 months down the track, another hearing. So your cases will go on forever and ever and ever and never resolve. Litigation is very, very long, very, very tedious. Okay, so I think that's all from me for today, actually, on dispute, conflict, dispute, and also, management. This is contract management, part of contract management. So we finished everything on contract. We've got 4 weeks of contract classes, plus this week on dispute classes is 5 weeks. And then we have 1 week of law and tort, okay? And then we have, tomorrow is all on exams, okay? So now, if you have any questions on assignments, yes, we can talk about assignments now. But before we go into that, I want to look at Zain's assignments first. He emailed me his assignment. I will take a look at his assignment first, because I haven't been able to comment on his assignment. Zain, are you here, Zain? Okay, Zain, I have not much of a problem with your write-up. It's just that I feel like the solution here, you didn't really base it. It has to be more based on the contract. You have to refer back to the contract. Okay? The writing is generally okay. Maybe these sections here, you can combine with the obligations, because this is quite short for a section. So 3 and 4 can be combined. And your solution needs to refer back to the clauses, and also practical solution. Yes, no problem, but you need to refer back to the clauses, huh? Are you still here, Zain? If you are not here, you're not listening, then later on, please refer back to the recording. This section on 2 hours and 15 minutes. So is my comment on your work. Can you describe your case for payment a lot stronger? You have a lot of this theory here, that is fine, but you didn't describe your case clearly. Put in timeline when he submit the claim, or why he fails. Like, be very clear when you guys write your cases. Be very clear about what happened. Okay, otherwise it's very difficult to know whether there's a problem or not. You see. And same thing here, try to combine these two sections together, the clauses and the description of the obligation of the clauses. And then again, your solution, you are doing a very general one. You did not actually follow whatever that is expressed in the contract. So what's the purpose? You talk about contract and then you don't solve the problem with the contract. You go another direction. Yeah. So all of you will be reminded your proposal to overcome the issues must be related to your contract. And then additional things like reasonable, logical things, extra management things you can put. But at the end of the day, the gist is trying to solve the problem with contract. You can have half even. Half is by management, but you must have proper reference to the contract with the actions that you're taking. Okay, so I think that is the two main issues that I have with your project, which is the same as what happened with everybody. But whatever that you are doing at the moment is not wrong. I think everybody is on the right track. It's just the final points of how you handle the writing that is going to make a difference between one another. I would say. Okay, Zain, are you clear, Zain? I think he's not here. Spiritually here. Physically no. Okay, clear, Zain? Okay, so if you're still unclear, just go to the recording around 2 hours, 16, 17 minutes onwards. Until now, about 10 minutes is my comment. I will post this recording up. So remember to refer back to your contract when you propose a solution, and you write your issue more carefully, write in a more time frame, like what happened, and describe the issues in more detail. Then at least we know where the problem is. Don't just write one paragraph. Oh, it's underpayment. Oh, it's no payment. Oh, it's delayed. It's not starting work. That is not description. Same goes with everybody. Try to describe your issue better. With proper what happened, at what time, when it happens, and what documents not submitted. The details of those issues that you must write, I think, will be more better for your writing. Okay? So mainly, I think the problem for most people are in these two areas, the writing of the issues and also the writing of the solution. Most of you can detect the right clauses already and describe the clauses. But then, of course, some people, like last week, Sunday, there are a few of you who actually got the clauses wrong. That one is possible also. Okay? But so far, that is very minimum. Most of the people are having problem with the proposal of solution. Yeah. Because you don't write with respect to the contract. You just write with, I must do this, we must better manage the thing. We are not doing a project management class, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing a contract class, okay? Right now, anyone else have any issues with your assignments? Alberta, you know what happened to Eddery or not? Is he still joining this master program?
He did not reply to me, sorry, doctor.
Oh, so he hasn't been in contact with anybody in the class.
We had a group for other subjects, but unfortunately for this class, I'm not sure what happened to him.
He is not attending any of the class. So far, he hasn't attended any of the class. I don't know why. Is he avoiding me? I hope not. Whether he pass or fail or not, I will be very fair one. Whether he do his RP or not, it's not my concern, because I am his RP supervisor. If he's so scared of me that he doesn't want to come to my classes, then that is very, very silly of him, not basically. But he's listening to all his recording. Otherwise, he will fail. Even if he pass everything, he will fail, you see. Because all these classes need my explanation. The other day when I do a recording, on payment, and then, most of you come back to me and say that you don't even understand. You ask questions that macam you never know what is going on with my recording macam too. Either you don't listen or you just don't understand. I don't know why. Okay, so maybe in the class I can explain a little bit more lah in the sense lah. But I also have not seen any of your assignment from you. So you are also in a very danger kind of environment. At least dying, I've started to see two of these assignments. The rest, like Victor, Amira, Clarence, the rest of the eight, seven of them, I have seen something from them. Most of them are on the right track, so I'm not so worried. Amalita is not in the class today.
Yeah, I did submit my assignment to you this morning.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I did
My
watch your
email, is it?
recording lah. I did according to your recording also. Your
You submit to where?
your email.
Not in my email.
Yeah, I sent to email.
No, it's not in my email. Which one do you send to? My email at the sending at unimas.my.
Hold on.
You don't send to sending at unimas.com, I tell you.
Oh, it's not sent yet. Sorry, sorry. Later I send again.
Yes, I'll wait for your email. I can open it straight away and comment right now. Others, are you guys comfortable? Are you all preparing to hand in already? Not yet received, huh? Fazana is okay. Fazana, you're doing a good job with your RP lah, huh? Yeah, but I said just do the amendments, and also I think your assignments all okay also lah. I think everybody's assignments are okay lah. Clearance one are also getting there. Riley one I think no problem so far okay. Like I said, most of your problem is about writing the solution with reference to the contract, huh? Victor, I think general Victor are also okay. I've seen some of his work. Like Tia, I've also seen some of your work already. I'm waiting for Albert punya. No leh, Albert. Nothing from you or can you WhatsApp me?
Okay, I WhatsApp to you.
Hmm.
Okay, done, send.
Okay, good. Have you been listening to my recordings? Because I also see that you're quite infrequent in attending the classes, oh.
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Same project for all the four issues, is it? Or different project, different issues?
Yes, it's the same project with different issues.
Okay. Contract detail, okay. Extension of time, case one. Use the word background, huh? Don't use the word introduction. You only have one introduction in one whole in the whole volume of things, okay?
Okay.
Why are you talking about the EOT and then you have all these things here? What is this about? These clauses here? Because it's like safety meetings and all that. Why is it here? Like, I mean, is it related to your EOT?
Yeah, it reflect to the EOT, the clause that is related to this delay.
Not really, because why are you like I say, why are you having these clauses here that doesn't talk about EOT? Wait, after that, work regarding a main job will start. Okay, failure of documents within given time. Can you not refer to any clauses? It just makes things very, very difficult to understand. When you
Okay.
describe the problem, just describe it like this, okay? They apply for extension of time, and all that. Then
Okay.
he must he submitted his work method statement, his schedules, all this. Describe it as a judge as a case like that, no?
Okay.
Only when you talk about the section 2 pula, then you go and talk about okay, now the application of the work is actually this one. I mean the clauses, okay? Okay, so these are the clauses applicable. Okay, so you already combine, these are their contractual obligations, huh?
Yep.
Okay, it looks fine to me. This one here again, you have to refer to the solution. The solution has to refer to the clauses. Okay, so the main contractor should actually do this according to this clause, the main contractor should do this, and then have they done this? What was the outcome? Like you write accordingly. Okay, it cannot be just generally, or they submit the work program, they solve the problem like that. It's not about that. See, you understand or not, Albert?
Yeah, I understand.
So again, your problem is just designed just now. You are writing this section like a general solution, not a solution that refers to the contract. If let's say this part here, they have done something like Fazana, they write like they have done something already, then you can comment according to the contract whether they're doing the right thing or not, for example. Okay, then you can add in like, okay, they must continue to progress and work diligently. Now, these sort of things are not in a contract, but it's a practical thing to do. That one can, but it's only after you write in accordance with the contract already, then you baru satu-satu boleh bring in other things,
Okay.
Right, understand?
Understand.
But it's okay. I mean, the work is well written in that sense. Yeah, I mean, I like the way you write your problem. So this is the issues. You use the word background of the issues or the issues or description of the issue, for example. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like the way that you write this is okay. I mean, it's good. Like you're trying to explain what happened, who do what and who didn't do what, kind of thing. That is good.
Yeah.
And then after that, the applicable clauses. And these two try to combine, especially if it's very short. Just like what you did just now, you combine them, use the same format,
Okay.
So then this one, the valuation thing, have to make sure that you refer, like in accordance with cost 2, yes, like you have to write like this, okay? You use the word summary, like end of it, don't use the word conclusion. You have one introduction, one conclusion. So one assignment cannot have 4, 5 introduction, 4, 5 conclusion.
Okay.
All right, I think should be all right. Anything else you want me to take a look? This variation is variation. Yours is, this part is on payment. If you talk about this is interim valuation of the claim,
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Refer to the solution part, refer to the contract. The variation one, let me have a look. You haven't really talked about the variation. This one is not complete, lah, how I assume. Case 2 and case 3 and 4, you haven't finished writing, am I right?
Yes,
Okay.
partially.
Yeah, partially. So we'll leave it as it is, lah, huh?
Okay.
All right, I think that's fine. You are on the right track. So far, so good. Dying also on the right track, so I'm not so worried. Everything seems to be on the right track, except for maybe the writing is there or not, lah, basically, lah, huh? Anything else anyone wants to ask? Albert, are you okay? I mean, like, anything else you want me to answer for you?
For now, okay.
Okay. All right, all the best. I really hope that all your CGPA will improve substantially this semester, especially for the old people. The new people, I think you generally from my class, I don't feel like you have much problem. Okay. Hopefully you all get more than 3 CGPA lah this sem. So people who are below 3 last sem, this sem, if you don't up it to over 3, you will be automatically gagal berhenti, yeah? What about others? If there's no more questions, we can stop for today, lah, huh? And then come back tomorrow afternoon at 2. I think we will start at 2:15, okay? Then we try to finish before 3:30. It's gonna be on the exams and take any other small questions that you have for assignments. I can resolve it right then and there. And also, yes, it's going to be purely on exam and closing up of the whole sessions. Take your attendance, close up, and also no more lecture. It's more on exams. Okay, exams, tips, and all that. So do attend tomorrow. And any other final Zoom, like any final Zooming for me to read your assignment, we can do it tomorrow as well. Okay. All right, huh? Everybody okay? So we'll call it a day lah for today lah. How you all go for your own things lah, huh? Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah. I think we're all already at the end of the semester. Everybody is like dragging already, yeah. To the finishing line, yeah. All right. Any more attendance you need to take? No? Okay. If not, then we'll go out.